Hey guys, it's Ramsey from Peak Performance Associates, NoVA Hypnosis and Wellness. Welcome back. Today I want to talk a little bit about something that just happened recently. And I share this information with you kind of like true Hollywood stories. We just had a phone call, and it was a person that had come in for an initial assessment or a 15-minute phone call. And what ended up happening is that they were not interested in going to phase one, which is the initial assessment needs discovery phase. And that's where you actually meet a provider, whether it's online or it's in person, and they go through a process with you, and the process is for us to learn more about you. It's not just learning more about you, but without going into great gory detail, what ends up happening is that we discover how it is that you're processing information. How did you get yourself into this position where you're not achieving what it is that you want to achieve? Long story short, the client was unwilling to move to phase one, and she was unwilling to move to phase one due to, this was actually stated in her correspondence, I want for there to be more than 15 minutes of hypnosis during this needs discovery phase. And this was for her daughter, actually. And so, I was professional and kind, responded back to her email and asked her specifically, what is it that you feel that the initial assessment is for? And she responded with, well, I just think that to come in for something and only get 15 minutes of hypnosis during the initial assessment, that's not worth it. And so I asked her, okay, it's your reference system for whether it's worth it or it's not worth it is based off of what experience with hypnosis. And by the way, I had spoken to her on the 15-minute phone call while I was training one of my other teammates. So I was familiar with the 15-minute phone call, how it went down, and the questions that were asked. So I asked her, what was your frame of reference? That was the first time she had ever sought out hypnosis services or anything that is along the lines of coaching. And the fixation on the price and the fixation on the 15 minutes of hypnosis actually pulled her away from what her original objective was, which is to help her daughter find relief. And her daughter was, there was an eating disorder that was involved in this whole equation. So I bring this to your attention because two things. The initial assessment is not designed, and it's really important that each person understands this, it's not designed for us to do and create the change in that moment. If you can look at what is happening during an initial assessment, it's really healthy to view it from this perspective. It's healthy to view it from the perspective of, if you were to go to a doctor, for example, and you show up to the doctor and you know that you have the potential for surgery taking place, you would not go to the doctor on the day one and expect that surgery to take place on the very first meeting. That would not be a very professional way of going about doing business. It would be impossible for the surgeon to gain 100% knowledge and data about your current situation, and it would be very dangerous for them to proceed, because there's a lot of other things that they have to become aware of and learn about the client or the patient in this example in order to help them the best. So the initial assessment is designed for that. Our 15 minutes of hypnosis is plenty of time. In fact, it's more than enough time for us to determine how the client is responding to the information. Are they people, or are they willing participants in hypnosis? Can they be hypnotized? All these questions that people have. And then from that information, what we're doing is we're making a recommendation and processing how it is that we're going to go about helping them if that client meets our 3 requirements. Those 3 requirements are, have they decided they want to change? They don't have to know how the change is going to occur. And for most people, 99% of people, you won't even understand it if we try to explain it to you. That's why we go through a process in order to evolve someone's perspective on things, or help them to evolve. And that's why we don't do single session work in clients, because lasting change comes as a result of repetition and conditioning, in addition to the work that we do inside of a hypnosis session and the trance work. So the fixation was very much, in my professional opinion, it was overly focused on how much hypnosis was going to be done during the initial assessment and whatever the cost was for that. And when the client was focused on that, the focus off of helping her daughter and the focus off of the change became completely tertiary, or maybe it wasn't even a priority anymore. So it's important to be aware that the initial assessment needs discovery. This is phase one on an interaction that we would have with a client. It's completely designed for us to basically interview the client so that we understand how it is that they're processing information. What senses are they using? What is the meaning they're giving certain scenarios? You know, Nelson Mandela was in prison for almost 28 years, and he stayed focused on what his desired outcome was, and that was either he was going to die in prison or he was going to free his people when he got out. So he could have easily carried a lot of resentment and a lot of anger towards the apartheid government in South Africa at the time. He didn't, because he chose to view it a different way. Everybody has a different perspective on things. Everyone has a different perspective, and from that perspective, what it does is it causes them to make certain choices. When a client is choosing behaviors, eating behaviors that are not supportive of what they want, that choice is something that they're not aware of what they're doing. So the needs discovery, the initial assessment, phase one in our process, is designed for us to observe how it is that they're processing this info. We then, unlike most other practitioners and offices, we then do an experience so that we can judge the level where the client is currently calibrated. How self-aware are they? Are they mindful of what is happening inside them? It doesn't need to be 70 minutes, 60 minutes to do that. We can do that very fast. That's why we do this as a profession. And then lastly, we're going to recommend to the client how many sessions it's going to take. Anecdotally, from the experience that we've had with serving over thousands of clients now, how many sessions, which provider is best going to help them. It's very important to stay focused on that element, because from there, we're going to give you a professional recommendation that this is going to help you, this is not going to help you. This many sessions is not, and sometimes we get into situations where the client says, well, I don't want to do 5 sessions, I want to do 3 sessions, or whatever. They choose that they want to do something less. And again, the same question comes to mind. What's your reference for choosing 3 sessions over 5? It would be like going to a lawyer and saying, I don't want you to do this, I want you to do that instead. And essentially telling them how to do their job. It wouldn't be in your best interest to tell someone who you're seeking services from how to do and how to provide this service to you. It would be actually at the detriment of that particular client. So keep those things in mind. That's phase one, and it's a great question. And in no time was I upset or frustrated with the question, but the responses that I got as I continued to help her to see the value in the experience were, well, it's just, I want more hypnosis. And the answer to my follow-on question never appeared. And the follow-on question was, what's your reference system for wanting more hypnosis during this particular phase? One other thing to keep in mind before we end this video, one other thing to keep in mind is that every provider you're going to go to, in some way, shape, or form, they can call it different things. They can give it a different strategy or process. They're going to need to get the same information from you. And you can't get all this information from someone in a 30-minute phone call or a 15-minute phone call. If you want to do a good job, it's not going to be possible for you to do that. So please keep that in mind. Thanks for joining us, and keep sending the questions in. I'll keep providing these real hypnosis practice stories so that you have an idea of what kind of questions may pop up in your mind, and some of these questions will probably be answered by some of these videos that I'm doing. Have a great day, take care, and goodbye.